So for letter C, so the instruction here is to express each fraction to the lowest terms. So when we say that, what that means is basically you need to simplify or factor out the numerator and then the denominator. And when you do that, whatever is in the numerator and denominator that are common, you can cancel. So for instance, for number two, for instance, okay. So for number two, you have 12 x cubed y over 4 xy. So there are so many ways to do this. So what about if we factor out the 12? So that would be 2 times 2 times 3, right? That's 12. And then, of course, the x cube is x times x, and then times y. So that's the fully factored numerator. And in the same way, in the denominator, the 4 is 2 times 2, and then times x, because there's only one x, times y. So this is the long way of doing this, but I want you to understand what that means. So when you fully factor everything, then whatever is common in the numerator, that the two and this two right here will cancel out. You basically just pair them off. And so this one right here, there's no three in the denominator, so you don't get to cancel it. The first x gets canceled, and then the y's get canceled. And so now what's left? So in the numerator, you have this, that, and that. So that would be, what would that be? So that would be 3 times x. So that will be 3x squared over, well, there's really nothing left in the numerator that's over 1, right? So basically, if there's nothing left in the numerator or denominator, you put 1. And anything divided by 1 is just that, whatever that anything is. Okay? So this is your final answer for that. Now, this is the long way. What about if you have x to the power of 100? Are you expected to actually write x 100 times? No, not really. Okay. So what you're gonna do? So this is the long way. If you have small, small numerators, do it this way. If not, then we can do it this way. So 12x cubed y over 4x y. So just remember that the x and the y, they have really exponent of 1, right? This one right here, that's also 1, and this is also 1. Okay, so what we can do now is basically divide the 12 and the 4. So what's 12 divided by 4? That's 3. Now, if it cannot be divided by, as a whole number, then just simplify it as a fraction. But in this case, you can divide it. So that's going to be 3. So you're done with the 12 and the 4. Now, x cubed divided by x to the power of 1. Remember, when you're dividing the same basis, you just subtract the exponents. So 3 minus 1, that's 2. So that was going to be x squared. And then y to the 1 divided by y to the 1. 1 minus 1 is 0. So that's like y to the power of 0. But y to the power of 0, this is equal to 1. This whole thing, that's equal to 1. So therefore, your final answer is still 3x squared. So either way, whichever is easier for you, do it. Okay? Excuse me. All right. I'm going to do number number 3. So that you get a chance. So after number 3, you pause it. I'm gonna do number 1 and 4 as well, but I want you to have as many examples. All right. So for number 3, you have binomial in the numerator, also binomial in the denominator. So I'm hoping that you have learned how to factor this x squared minus 1 over x plus 1. Okay. So the denominator, you can't really factor that anymore because that's as simplified as it gets. So you can just put that in parentheses. So it counts as 1. Now, x squared minus 1, this is a difference of two squares. So difference of two squares, you have a squared minus b squared. What that means is you have a perfect square, you have another perfect square, and then there's a minus sign in between them. So it's called difference of two squares. So when you have difference of two squares, all you got to do is prepare your parentheses. Okay. So the first term, you take the square root of that. That's a. You put that here. The second one, you take the square root of that. That's b and b. One is plus and one is minus. Those are the factors. So it's the same case here. X squared is a perfect square. 1 is a perfect square. There's a minus sign in between. So therefore, you prepare your two parentheses like we did. Take the square root of the first term, x squared. Square root of that is x. And x. Square root of 1 is 1. And 1. 1 is plus. And 1 is minus. So now you can tell that this x minus x plus 1 and that x plus 1 will cancel out. So therefore, your final answer will be x minus 1. Okay. All right. So that's 1 and 3. I mean, 2 and 3. So pause this if you want to try number 1 on your own. And if you do, then do it. And then I'm just going to answer number 1 here. Okay. Number 1, so you have 4x squared over 2xy. I'm gonna solve it this way, the long way. So factor out 4, you have 2 times 2 times x, and then 2 times x times y. So cancel out the one that can be canceled out. So we can cancel this first 2 and that first 2, that x and that x, and nothing else gets canceled out. So now we can do whatever is left. On the numerator, you have 2x left, and in the denominator, you have y. So that would be your number 1. Number 4, okay, so let's answer number 4. But I'd suggest that you try this on your own first. Okay, so you have x squared minus 4 over x um, over x minus 2. Okay, so the denominator again is as simplified as it gets. X does not have the whole the power is 1, so you can just put that as 1, put it as in parentheses. Now x squared minus 4 is again difference of two squares. The first one is x squared, that's a perfect square. 4 is also a perfect square, and there's a minus in between them. If it's not a minus, then you cannot factor it. Okay, so we will prepare a parentheses. Take the square root of the first term. Square root of x squared is x, you put that here. Square root of 4 is 2, you put that here. 1 is plus, 1 is minus. And so this x squared, x minus 2 and x minus 2 will cancel out. Therefore, your final answer is x plus 2. Okay. I'm going to do I did not receive letter A yet, so I'm sending it in a bit.